morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to show you a deck that's gone full Melmetal. The most Melmetal deck I have ever seen. And of course, if we're going to go full Melmetal, we need to start with Lucario and Melmetal Tag Team GX. A very good card. One that we've either all been playing it, or we are at the very least all aware of it. So the main attraction here for one colourless energy basically says that for the rest of the game, your Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. Now, if you add a second energy on there, you also discard all energy from your opponent's active Pokemon, which can be really useful, especially if your opponent has a really fast start. For instance, in a welder deck, a lot of the time, you're really just using this to stop a bunch of damage, but it is really useful to be able to go, oh, you attached free energy on your first turn, I'm going to go get rid of them. Now, for 2 colourless energy, you do 50 damage and search for a metal energy and attach it to this Pokemon. And for 4 energy, you do 150 damage. Cool. The good news is, if you ever end up against a God of War and Sylveon deck, you will absolutely obliterate them, because you're getting an easy one-hit KO and they cannot one-hit KO you back. That's kind of awesome. But we are, of course, left with reservations about how well it can do against stuff like Pikachu and Zekrom, Mewtwo and Mew, and Arceus and Dialga and Palkia. Now, the other main part of this deck, the only other real attacker we play, is Melmetal GX. Now, what I really like here is we've got the ability Hard Coat, which says that you take 30 less damage from attacks. But when you add that in with a GX attack, you're now taking 60 less damage from attacks. And I'm going to spoil the surprise a little bit here. We're playing Metal Frying Pan, which means you're then taking 90 less damage from attacks. And you don't have any weakness because of Metal Frying Pan. So taking 90 less from attacks is really quite ridiculous. In terms of the attack here, it's not the most powerful attack we've ever seen. 4 colourless energy, 110 plus 20 more for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon. And if you can get all metal energy on it, if you can get all 4 on there, then you are doing 190, which isn't bad. It's still not phenomenal, but it's not terribly bad. There is a GX attack here. 1 metal energy, attach any number of metal energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. And on the one hand, I really like this as an emergency, I've not got enough energy, let's roll kind of attack. But by the same token, if you're using this and you're not using Lucario and Melmetal's GX attack, which means you take 30 less from attacks, which is really good, so it's kind of up to you. It really is one of those, if you're desperate because you cannot get set up, this is a nice attack. And then, of course, 3 copies of Jirachi. Why would we not be playing Jirachi? I know it's getting a little bit repetitive, but Jirachi really is that good. I said 3 copies, I meant 4 copies. You'll see when I show you the full deck list in a minute, there's 1 promo and 3 regular. It lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it in your hand, Jirachi then goes to sleep, but escape board will reduce your retreat cost from 1 to 0 while allowing you to retreat even though you're asleep. It is the staple draw engine of a lot of decks around at the moment, and it is again here. And that's basically it. In terms of Pokemon, that really is it. You've got Lucario and Melmetal, and you've got Melmetal. You're hitting for 4 energy. You're hitting somewhere in the region of 150 a turn, regardless of which one you actually go ahead and use. You're going big and bulky and hard to KO because of high HP and other things that reduce the amount of damage done to you. And you're kind of hoping you play against a lot of God of War and Sylveon. Now, in terms of energy, we are playing a couple of weakness guard energy, because the reality is that because of stuff like Welder, fire decks are around at the moment. And between Metal Frying Pan and Weakness Guard Energy, that does give you a bunch of options for removing your weakness. There's no point being a big, bad, bulky, hard to KO Pokemon and then having a really bad weakness. Now, obviously, we are playing ourselves a bunch of metal energy here. That should be fairly self-explanatory. And that brings us to the one card that we kind of need in this deck that Japan has that we don't at the moment, and that's double colorless energy. You see, this deck plays, there's only two copies. There's only two copies of double colorless energy here, but you can use it for Lucario and Melmetal's first attack to accelerate energy. And you can use it for both their big attack and Melmetal GX's big attack, and that's a bit of a pain. Now, when it comes to Melmetal, we don't care. We've got triple acceleration energy, and even though it's discarded at the end of the attack, it doesn't really matter. You should be alright just replacing it with triple acceleration energy. But that doesn't work with Lucario and Melmetal. Now, there are ways around it. We're going to talk about red and blue in a moment. So you could play a combination of red and blue and tag switch. Though red and blue, you do have to wait a turn for the Pokemon to be able to evolve, which will slow things down a little bit. Similarly, there's nothing to stop you playing Welder and a bit of fire energy here to accelerate energy on. But then that's only really useful for Lucario and Melmetal. You don't want that for Melmetal. But then again, if you're playing double colorless energy anyway, that's not going to give you the extra attack boost that Melmetal gets from metal energy. So maybe that could be a little bit of an answer here. It's not as good. There are some options. I don't think any of them are quite as good as double colorless. It's up to you to decide whether it completely kills the deck. I think we can play it without it. We just have to be a bit more creative. Now, speaking of red and blue, it really is one of the most important cards in the deck here. Red and blue lets you search your deck for a GX that evolves from one of your Pokemon and evolve it up. Only if it will be able to evolve anyway, it doesn't let you evolve early. You then get to, if you discard two cards from your hand, search your deck for 2 energy and attach to it. And that, combined with something like triple acceleration or double colorless energy, will get Melmetal rolling in a single turn, hitting for 150. That ain't bad, ladies and gentlemen. Like I say, against something like Gardevoir and Sylveon, or even a non-GX deck, you're probably going to be rolling here. Against a non-GX deck, if they're hitting 90 less per turn, and you're getting easy one-hit KOs on them from pretty early in the game, that's probably going to secure you the victory. Against big bad tag teams, you're 2-hit KOing. You need to try and make sure that they're 3-hit KOing, which with your bulk you might well be able to do. Do remember as well that you're giving up 2 prizes with Melmetal, not 3, so that could put the prize race in your favour. Now, like so many decks nowadays, you are playing a bunch of tag team supporters. We have Mallow and Lana, that lets you switch to the bench and heal 120. Again, you're playing big, bulky Pokemon that you're trying to reduce damage to and keep them alive. This seems pretty important. We're playing Cynthia and Caitlyn, as is basically every deck at the moment. Recover supporters while drawing cards. It's phenomenal. And we see Guzma and Hala here, and Guzma and Hala really is, in this particular deck, over the top good. Now, it does let you search for a stadium. We'll get to them in a minute. We're not so reliant on stadiums. But it also lets you search for a special energy and a tool, which is weakness guard energy, or double colorless / triple acceleration energy. Metal frying pan. Yeah, it's a really important part of the deck here. Guzma and Hala, like so many decks at the moment, this really does make it roll. Now, you're playing a bunch of supporters, so Lieutenant Surge's strategy as a one-off to let you play 2 in a single turn, as long as you're behind on prizes, is pretty gosh darn good. And with so many tag team supporters and playing a tag team Pokemon, playing Tag Cool here should be an absolute no-brainer. Lets you search for 2 tag team cards. It's pretty gosh darned great. Now, we do see a little bit of Cynthia and a little bit of Lily here, just because they are the best draw cards that we've actually got in the game at the moment. And we see Great Catcher as our gusting of choice. Lets you discard 2 cards from your hand and gust an EX or GX from the bench into the active. This deck does actually play Guzma, because Japan still have Guzma, but again, you can just switch them out for Great Catcher, so I don't think that's a great loss. Obviously, we play Reset Stamp here, because if your opponent takes a lead on prizes, this lets you even the playing field. And we do play Adventure Bag here, which is really nice for just searching out those metal frying pan, which can be extremely important to your plans. Now, in terms of stadiums here, we have got Mount Coronet that lets you just grab your metal energy back. And the deck does play Power Plant, but you need to be careful with Power Plant, because you see, Power Plant will turn off Melmetal's ability. Now, the good news is it also turns off stuff like Dedenne and a whole bunch of other good stuff, but it will turn off Melmetal's ability. So in any game where you're really reliant on Melmetal, Power Plant is probably not where you want to be going. And the deck does play Nest Ball, which is a pain, but we've seen a whole bunch of Jirachi-focused decks lately playing stuff like Pokemon Communication, and you do still have your Tag Call and Cherish Ball that you can use for your GXs, so again, I don't think that's a huge loss. I do think Double Colorless losing it is a big pain. Like I've said, there are ways around it if we alter the deck list a little bit, but I love the idea that we've actually just got a deck that goes full Melmetal, big Pokemon, reducing damage, decent attacks, and lots of 2-hit KOs. I really like this. This is a fun deck, and it's certainly one that I'm looking forward to having a bit of a play with. But I'd like to know what you think about it, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.